Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with our player data analyst slash expert Gareth again to give you a talking tactics special. This time discussing another victory, this time against Brighton. I'm going to take you through some of the main tactical tweaks, tactical changes, positives that got us the victory, as well as maybe some potential hurdles that Emery might have to overcome over the coming weeks, particularly in the mid-season break. And we'll run through our usual XG, player influence, player passing lanes, player passing stats, just to give you an idea of what went on in the game and what Unai Emery did to mastermind the victory against Brighton. But first of all, Gareth, welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Here we go. Good. Yeah, well, let's see what we can see today then.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. So you've outdone yourself again this week. Not only have we got our usual slides, we've got match of the day style analysis. I'm giving you the big build up here, Gareth, but yeah, I'm sure you're well capable of it. So we went through backstage how we go through it, and first of all, just looking at the shape of Villa matching up against Brighton's shape. Just give us a little talk through of what you notice here in terms of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing too. I think in the game we didn't see any massive tweaks. We didn't see any change in formation. We saw the same basic in and out of possession shapes that we've been seeing in recent games, last couple of games since Emery's took charge. So, yeah, again, it's just a basic 4-4-2. This time, obviously, Leon Bailey didn't play because he wasn't very well up front. So we had Ben Buendia up front as well alongside Danny Ings, obviously not on his normal position, but still I think he was included as well due to the fact that him and Ings compressed just as well as what sort of Ings and Watkins could have done in the previous game. So yeah, nothing different really, but just John McGinn on the right side of midfield this time and Jacob Ramsey on the left. And Kamara and Louise in the centre and the usual back four. So yeah.
Perfect.
Nothing out the ordinary, but still good to see, I think, from a higher angle.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also what's interesting to see here is the formation and the way Brighton are set up here. Like, it's almost like what would that be? A two at the back,
it's almost
one
like a 2-5.
transition, four up front.
It's strange. Yeah, I think it's because, but I think this was an instance. If I imagine when I clipped it, it was the fact that Solly March down on this right hand side was on his way back. I think it was from a Martinez goal kick and they'd kicked the ball long and Solly March was on his way back. So, but yeah, it is basically sort of two very high fullbacks and they're trying to occupy Villa's back four with four themselves. So yeah, a similar sort of thing. And this obviously left McGinn's spare on the right-hand side. And you can see on the top there, Estepinian, the Brighton and Hove Albion left back, he is the outlet. He is that build-up. So, and we'll go on to a little bit more of that because that's where they sort of they focused on a lot, Brighton, down that side. So,
Yeah. Well, one area that they were looking to exploit, and both teams were trying to do this and pressing quite high, but for Brighton, it worked a treat in the first minute or so. Talk us through kind of this situation here, because we've noticed that Emery likes to get his goalkeepers involved in the play and likes to build up from the back, but it has caused one or two errors that have led to goals. Man United game with Olsen and this game with Martinez.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree, Rich. I think, first of all, we should say really that this is criminal from Martinez to play that ball into where he plays it in. He's always going to put Douglas Luiz in trouble. Now, Douglas Luiz, he's probably calling for the ball, give it to feet. I can play out, no problem. But he's got to see that. Douglas Luiz can't, he's not looking at what's coming behind him. Martinez, the whole of the back four, and possibly Kamara as well, can all see what's going to happen here. Now, the red arrow obviously indicates where the ball was played. Louise ends up getting dispossessed and Brighton score. But obviously, the green arrows indicate, look how many outlets he's got. You know, he can play. He can't play to Conser, but he can easily play to Tyrone Mings and out through Digne, and then Digne out through Ramsey or so forth. Or even then, Luiz would have dropped into this sort of half space area where they could play out from there. He could even Martinez can even play into this sort of angle where Ramsey's running. You can see Ramsey making that run down towards this near touchline. He could play it out there. He can even go even longer over the top to Mings. Look at the space that Mings has got. Danny Ings has got in between the Brighton centre backs there. He could. There's a space there, and he's almost on the move already. Now he possibly could be offside, but he could still make that run in there. And this ball was actually played quite a few times from Martinez over the top to Ings. So I'm surprised they did this so early on in the game.
Yeah. Well, like you say, it's one of those that they're really going to have to work on over the next few weeks.
I should just say, Rich, sorry, I should just say that even though that does say 1-0 Brighton at the top there, that screen grab is taken from a replay. So therefore, that's why it says the one.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I think it's certainly something that they need to work on over this time period of Martinez having the confidence to be able to pass that ball out, and the players getting into positions early to give him the options to feel like he's got the time to pick those passes. Yeah. And like you say as well, you know, this is something that I've noticed with Villa over the course of the last couple of years. You know, particularly in lockdown, it was evident that the real voice on the pitch is Tyrone Mings, and maybe some of the other players need to really shout up and step up to kind of be a voice on the pitch, to tell players when they've got time, tell players when they're open, tell players where to pass it, because that leadership is what's going to help us move.
Yeah, forwards. I mean, I definitely think, you know, he wants them to be brave on the ball. And it's a common thing that, you know, most teams, let's be honest now, play out from the back. You could say 95% of the teams, if not all of them, play out from the back. I just worry whether it's a bit too early to be doing this right from the off, away from home. You know, you've got to play. A lot of managers wouldn't want that. You know, they would want themselves just to get up the pitch, get in the game, see the first 10, 15 minutes out, and then progress on from there, because it's, you know, people now know, and teams, managers will know pressing triggers, especially from opposition teams. They know we always tend to play out from the left-hand side. Martinez, Mings, Digne, and we play out from that side. We don't tend to play out a lot from the right-hand side. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen. You know, so there needs to be that little bit of variation in there, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you highlighted John McGinn earlier on the shape picture. Sorry, I've just gone dark here.
Put 10p in a meter, Rich. Put 10p in a meter.
Just bear with me. But yeah, you highlighted McGinn here. And that's one of the things where he had maybe one or two slight problems with his positioning, and potentially Brighton look to exploit that.
They definitely did. Yeah, normally we do see a lot of teams sort of going at us down our right-hand side. They obviously see that as a bit of a weakness. It's not the side that Digne and Mings are on. It's more the side that Cash and Conser are on, obviously. But John McGinn, I felt, really, I'm in between sort of either he didn't get it, or that he was put in a position where he didn't particularly want to be, and he just doesn't know that right hand side of midfield. And as you can see, this space here, the ball is now being played sort of into the feet, back from the player near McGinn, back to Lewis Dunk. And you can see Cash is telling John McGinn, stay on that man, stay where you are, because Douglas Luiz is following the midfielder there. Cash is going to go out to the right hand side there. McGinn needs to stay where he was. He just doesn't do that. So if we move it on to the next slide, Rich, if we can. Yeah. And we can see now, John's had to go right out. He didn't have to do that. He could be the spare man into that midfield, because Cash is there. That was Cash's man on the previous slide. So I'm not quite sure why John McGinn should be pushing on the longer green arrow there. That's John McGinn's man. That is John McGinn's man to the left-hand side of the screen. Matty Cash's man is where John McGinn is.
Yeah, so he's almost giving himself more work to do, because now he's got to cover double the ground.
Cash should not be a spare man in the back four. You can clearly see that the midfield, you know, Ramsey's on his way back, Luiz is on his way back. You can see the three players that those three, Kamara, Ramsey, and Luiz, are marking. That's their men. That's who they're going to approach. So I don't quite see why John McGinn, especially when he's been told by Matty Cash to push on, why he's doing that. So, and again, if you notice throughout the game, he was back and forth, and he was sort of a bit sort of like a rabbit in the headlights, really. He wasn't quite
Mm.
sure of his role almost, sort of in out of possession more than in it. I think in possession he knew it, but out of possession he really seemed to struggle for me.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those tweaks that you hope that Emery can coach into him, because there were elements where he did play really well and he's back to the kind of the old McGinn, but you can see that the level of detail that Unai Emery goes into in particularly off the ball is going to be
Yeah,
really important for players to take that knowledge on board and
yeah.
carry it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he gets in now. I'm not. I'm not. I fear for a bit for John because I'm not sure he gets in. If Watkins is fit, I think Buendia goes out on that right hand side.
Mm.
And I'm not sure. I think he likes to switch it between Ramsey, maybe, and Buendia or Bailey on that, or Bailey up top or whatever. But I'm not so sure John gets that role.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, final sort of player screen grab slide. We've this famous 6 at the back, or 6-4-0, that we employed towards the end of the game. Now, yeah, give us a little insight into this and how this kind of worked for us towards closing the game out.
Yeah, I mean, I highlight it as a back six. I mean, that was what Cara said on, I think it was Cara on commentary, or somebody said on commentary, but essentially it was at times, but really it's a back five. I mean, John McGinn, as you can see, that's his sort of, he would then join to make that midfield four. So it was more a 5-4-1. And this is why Ashley Young was brought on for an extra man, sort of as a right wing back to mark the wider Brighton player on this side. So yeah, it's a basic sort of thing. It was something that we haven't really seen. We haven't seen Villa go to a back five for the last time I can remember. So yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to see, but it was a back six at times when McGinn dropping in to mark the man on that far right hand or his left hand side there. So yeah, it was interesting. Something I haven't quite seen before. But obviously, I think at that point at 89 minutes, we still had 10 minutes of the game to play, didn't we? Because of injuries, I think. So yeah, it was a sensible thing, and it was good to see. It was a nice little tweak for me.
Yeah, and we definitely kept Brighton at arm's length with that. And as we move into the sort of general slides that we've done, and we'll go with the XG first in terms of this, because we really limited Brighton to very little clear-cut chances, particularly throughout that second half, despite the pressure that they had. And if you look at the kind of map of where the chances were and the quality of the chances, that really bears fruit.
Yeah, I think we defended really well. As a unit, more than anything, as a whole 11, I think we defended really well. And Brighton are on a little sort of decent run of form. So to not only sort of out XGM, if you like, away from home, but sort of create the little chances that we did. I mean, don't forget that 0.75 of that for our one is the penalty.
Yeah.
So we should bear that in mind. But I think we can't. I don't think anybody could say that we didn't deserve to win the game.
No, absolutely not. And it takes lots of elements to win the game of football, doesn't it? And we came back from a goal behind. We weathered a little bit of a storm, but ultimately we were fairly comfortable, and it didn't really look like, no matter how hard they tried, that they were going to score.
No, I think it's night and day from Gerrard, really, because the amount of, although the formation didn't change, there was little tweaks that you could notice sort of here and there. But it's not night and day, because we would have just stuck with a 4-3-2-1, and all of a sudden we're changing shape sort of 2 or 3 times within the game for different periods, and it was flexible, and I think that's what they need. They need to be able to adapt like that, especially away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, quick look at the passing and the influence diagram here.
Yeah.
What are you mainly noticing from this one?
Yeah, I mean, McGinn was sort of, it's a bit difficult for this one because it's average positions, because of the change of shape and the roles that the players played, apart from the back four and Jacob Ramsey, Ings and Buendia. Louise and Kamara, obviously we can still see that double pivot in midfield with the 4-2-2-2 in possession. But McGinn is on this sort of more central area because he was swapping sides. He was obviously on the right-hand side initially, and then he dropped to the sort of left wing back, didn't he? Sort of in that back six. So, and it's a kind of a sort of a tricky one because he spent various minutes at different positions. But you can see that he did spend a great deal of time in the centre of that pitch. I mean, that is a fair sort of representation of him getting dragged inside a lot and him not quite knowing where he sort of was on average, if you like. It is a bit of a stretch, and I'm not digging him out, but it's a tricky one, that.
Yeah. And am I right in saying that Concert to Cash was quite a high percentage of passes?
This is what I found, and obviously it goes back to what I normally said. Like I said earlier, we normally play out through the left hand side, through Mings, Digne, and sort of all that way. In this game, we saw quite a bit of a difference, and this is something under Emery that we have seen different, because Concert and Cash in the last game, I believe, was sort of a very sort of common sort of route out. So yeah, I'm interested to see why that is. I'm not quite sure why they've decided on that, whether it's just something for these last two away games. I'm not quite sure, but be something to keep an eye on moving forward. That
certainly. And then finally, I like this one, the player influence. And I think we highlighted last week about huge font size for, say, Douglas Luiz previously under Steven Gerrard, and a bit more spread in terms of the influence under Emery, and that's indicated here. But interestingly enough, from a layman's point of view for myself, Ings and Ramsey, very, very small in terms of their player influence, but ultimately they were the ones who created or were at the heart of what were our best moments.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why it's sort of there's various ways of visualizing different sort of data points, obviously. But yeah, they weren't sort of involved in many passing sequences. I think Danny Ings made 9 passes in the whole of the game. And I don't think Ramsey wasn't too far off that either. But on people like Emi Martinez, 26 passes, I think he completed, the goalkeeper. So it just goes to show you that they're trying to sort of play around at the back. They tried to keep possession of the ball, and that's important, especially away from home again. It's a tricky thing, but it's interesting to see how they sort of work like that, really.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant analysis. Any sort of other general points from this performance?
No, not particularly. I've got a couple of notes that I thought Kamara broke the play up really well. I didn't think it. A lot of people said after the game that they thought his passing was okay. I didn't think it was that great. I thought he broke up play quite well, but I think maybe at home we'll see that a lot better. He'll be a lot better on the ball. So I think we do need a bit more from him. I think he breaks up play well, but I think we do need a bit more from him. Danny Ings was at the game of his life almost, didn't he? Sort of played really well, looked up for it, and Buendia on the ball I thought was pretty good. But yeah, I do worry a little bit about that back four. I wonder if that will be looked at properly again.
Yeah, well, there's lots of rumours of 1 or 2 players that he wants to bring in. But I think also from my point of view, is what's interesting is that whether it's a message from him, it seems like he's asking, say, a Buendia and a Danny Ings to give him everything for 70 minutes, pressing, pressure on the ball, getting about the pitch. And then he will then change them. He'll change the play. He made a triple substitution after 74 minutes.
That's
and
right.
Almost as if they've done everything that they can. They put 100% into that 74 minutes, and then he can then freshen it up. Whereas maybe some of the times they might have been asked under previous managers, conserve your energy for that whole 90 minutes. Whereas he's asking them to put everything into that.
I mean, one of the notes I did sort of put down here as well, sort of during the game, was I think when we press high, we have great success at that. I think I put it on Twitter sort of halfway through the game that I think that's the way forward for us. Even away from home, we've got the players to do it. We can do it. It's just got to be a little bit more organised. But I think we've got those players to be able to do that. We just seem to be a lot better. I did note as well that something else, that Gerrard's average substitution time was about 63 minutes, and so far Emery's has been 74. So an extra 10 minutes later, they're making substitutions. If you look back for all the Gerrard games, 63 minutes always makes a change. But Emery seems to be leaving it that sort of 10, sort of 11, 12 minutes. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah, certainly. Well, Gareth, thank you so much again for joining us. Where can people find you? Just give yourself another plug.
Yeah, at that Garate JC on Twitter. Most people will sort of know me from on there. So yeah, come and have a chat.
Awesome. And yeah, once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. We are almost at 700 subscribers, which is phenomenal. So please, as I always say, leave a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the tactics, what you thought about, you know, players moving forward. Gareth has made some interesting points about McGinn, Kamara, how we're going to moving forward with our defense, you know, the risks that we're going to take. So let us know what your thoughts are on what Emery's going to do over this mid-season break and what he potentially needs to do. And as always, yeah, like I say, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 700 and beyond. We want to get up to 1,000. And the final thing is, as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.